Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Red Hour, where 2 times a week I talk about a random episode of Star Trek. Today's episode is Enterprise, Season 2, Episode 13, called Dawn. And I just want to welcome everybody. Like I said, my name's the Dead Man. I want to try and see if I can figure out a way to see if people are in the chat and if I can talk to them. Season 2, Episode 13. And I think I figured out a way to do it, and but nobody's in the chat anyway, so it doesn't matter. I will come back and look at that and see later on. So this episode starts off. It's Trip is in the shuttle pod, and shuttle pod 1, and he's trying to test the autopilot system, and as he's doing that, you get a hail from the Enterprise where Archer tells him that there's a vessel approaching, and the vessel starts like firing on him, but both ships go down because there's some sort of interference in the atmosphere. They're like near a moon of a big planet, so both shuttles go down, and so that's like our teaser. And then, so when I'm watching this episode on Paramount Plus, it says, skip intro, which I have been doing because, I've seen all these episodes like 1,000 times, and I don't want to hear the theme. I'm sorry. But in particular, this theme, the Enterprise theme, is just, it sucks. I hate it. And really, at the end credits, the Archer's theme, that should have been the theme of the show. But anyway, back on the ship, they hail Trip. Hoshi's trying to get a hold of Trip, and there's no response. And they say in the episode, I think T'Pol says there's like 62 moons that they would have to search to find him. They know he's crashed on a moon. They just don't know, which moon it is. So that's how the episode goes, and so then Trip is like trying to fix like the transceiver, the shuttle pod transceiver, and this alien like attacks him, the guy that was in the other ship, and steals the transceiver. So we go back to the Enterprise, and a ship is approaching the Enterprise, and they hail him, and he's like, "You need to leave our territory now. We're very protected of this territory." And Archer's like, "Well, we have a man down there somewhere that we need to find. We're not leaving until we find him." And this guy, he doesn't like that idea at all. And but then he says that he's also missing someone, and so Archer like convinces him that they should work together, because the sooner that they can find this guy, or they can find Trip, the sooner they can get out of there. And and the guy agrees. He gives a look of agreement, but you can tell that he's like doesn't like it, because I guess these are kind of like a xenophobic or very territorial type race of aliens. And so, and what I thought would have been interesting, because this is just an alien of the week, what I thought would have been interesting is for what if it was like an established alien race from like the original series, not like the Klingons, because we already introduced the Klingons, and I mean, there's nothing we can do about that introduction. So I thought maybe it would be better if you just used like the Tellarites, and later on there's a scene where it definitely makes more sense to just use the Tellarites, because I don't think they had been introduced at this point. They introduced the Andorians, and that would have because this episode ends in such a way that it would make sense that it's an original series alien species that we've already met, but maybe we don't know the origin of how humans and that species became friends, how the first contact went, because this is essentially a first contact type situation. It's not ideal, but it is a first contact situation. So anyway, that was just an idea that I thought maybe would work, or that they should have gone with. Meanwhile, Trip is trying to get to the transceiver back, and there's like this, like in like Ocean's 11 or something, where they're trying to rob a bank or a museum, and there's like these little lasers and stuff. There's one of those around this guy's campsite. He accidentally runs into it, but he's like coming down a hill, and he like kicks some dirt while this guy's like trying to make a fire, and the dirt like reveals the laser. So he takes dirt and tries to like figure out where the laser is and where there's an entry point, or if there is one. And he goes back to the shuttle pod, and he's like, at first you don't know what he's doing, because he's just kind of like talking to himself, and he's got like this I guess it's his like log entry book or something, and he's like putting things into it and switching things around and doing something, and then he goes back. So he ends up making like a recording of himself, and it's just him like saying Mary had a little lamb or something like that, and he places it on like the other side of this guy's campsite as a distraction, so he can get into the campsite, get the receiver. And also this guy's got a phaser, which Trip doesn't have. He doesn't have any weapons with him or anything like that. And so the guy has his phaser on him. Never mind. He's at this point he's just trying to get the transceiver, because he thinks he can make it work, because it was damaged during the crash. So then the guy's like walking around, and he's looking for Trip, and he's looking around and stuff, and so Trip kind of like sneaks up on him and tries to take the phaser, but is unsuccessful, and they get into a little scuffle and stuff, and the alien like wins, and ties him up. So back on the ship, they're trying to. Archer's like, I don't understand why they don't. These people don't send more ships. It's their territory. Why don't they send more ships so we can get this over with quicker? And Paul tells Archer, well, that's because because I'm a Vulcan, and the Vulcans had like a bad first contact situation with them. It didn't go well, so they don't trust Vulcans, so they don't trust you because you have a Vulcan on your ship. And they're like a kind of easily provoked, or a race that's like kind of like antagonistic and stuff like that. So once again, it would have made sense if they would have made this like an accidental first contact episode with like the Tellarites, or they've already introduced the Andorians, so they can't do that. But like the Tellarites would have been perfect. That would have been perfect, and then we could, because they don't get introduced until later on. So anyway, then it goes back to the moon. And the other thing is, yeah, I mean, the way that T'Pol describes these people is almost identical to the way the Tellarites are described in, Journey to Babel. So why that such a missed opportunity? And you will find that they're in Enterprise and also in Discovery. There's a lot of missed opportunities throughout both series to kind of connect things to the lore of the fucking show of Star Trek. So anyway, the back on the moon, the alien and Trip is tied up, and he wants Trip to fix the transceiver. And so they're arguing with each other. They don't speak. They don't have a universal translator, and so they're just kind of arguing with each other. And he gets pissed off, and Trip is like, well, I can't do anything while I'm tied up. You have to have my hands. And they kind of, he's got his phaser pointed at him, and he's like, Trip's like, okay, I get it. If I try anything, you'll shoot me. And Trip was also like, if you kill me, I can't. You're not gonna get anything fixed. So he convinces the guy to let him loose so he can work on the transceiver. And he has also, I think he wants him to work on his shuttle pod or whatever. Not the shuttle pod one, the one that the alien was in. I think that's another thing that he wants. So Trip convinces us to let him free. So he's working on it, and the thing is that they keep talking about throughout the episode is like, dawn is coming and it's getting hotter. The sun is coming up, it's getting warmer out, and they kind of hint at this from time to time, and we'll get to it, but there's a point where they explain what's going on the moon. It's like a ticking time clock situation. So, Trip is like all sweaty, and he tries to tell the alien, he's like, "Hey, I need some water," and they they figure out each other's names, and but he's like, "I need water." So this alien hands him a canteen. Trip takes a drink of it and spits it out immediately, and I guess it's just like something that they drink that he can't drink, and it's just gross, or maybe just nasty, or maybe it's even toxic. I don't know. But they, so he's like, "I need to go to my shuttle. There's water on the shuttle pod." And the alien's like, "No, just get it fucking done." He doesn't say that, but you get the gist. So then, back on the ship, T'Pol is looking through that, the thing on the viewer thing on the original series that Spock looks into, and he'll look into it and say something, and they do it on Strange New Worlds too. She's looking into that thing, and she calls Archer over, and she's like, come look at this. And this was interesting. This is one thing that I thought was pretty cool. And it's also, well, let me just explain this thing. So he looks into it, and we see what he sees, and it's like a bunch of moons orbiting the planet, and then some of them are green, and some of them are in red. And Archer's like, "Explain this to me." Now, before I explain what that means, obviously you can tell green is good, red is bad. But I think I really like that scene, because we've never seen that before. Back when I was watching the original series when I was a kid, or even as an adult, I always wanted to know what is it that Spock is seeing. He's seeing something like in the sensor. Is it just reading out? Is it just the computer reading out sensor data? No. Well, now we find out. No, it's like images, or it's whatever they need to know about what's going on in the sensor data. It's not just words on a screen. So Archer's like, "Explain this to me. I don't, he, I don't know this type of things." And she's like, "Well, the moons that are in green are moons that are there's a temperature variant, but it's a variant that is it's acceptable to humans. It's not going to be too hot. It's not going to be too cold." Oh, by the way, in the beginning, she does explain that the majority of these moons have an atmosphere that's breathable, that's habitable. So that's pretty convenient. But and then the ones in red is okay. At nighttime, they're like a normal temperature, like I forget what temperature she said, because I was writing shit down while I was like watching it. I should have just paused it, but she says, it's like like I don't know, 67, 70 degrees at night, or something like that. And then during the day, the temperature shoots up rapidly. It could be, one of them could be like 109 degrees, one of them could be like 200, or something completely unbearable for humans. So, that's where the ticking time bomb comes in. And so they're, back on the moon. uh, uh, um, Trip is like telling this alien dude that uh, he needs to like show him something. It's like, I can't fix this part, I can't fix it. It's not fixable. And he's like, kind of like stares at him and doesn't understand. And he kind of like repeats what he says and explains it in a way that the alien would understand. And oh no, wait, I forgot. He also injures himself, and the alien, he like cuts himself on his arm. It's not a big, it's like a superficial wound, but the alien like spits on it and it heals it. He's got like magical spit. And this is, why that had to be in there, I don't know. But then he gets to the point where he's like, I need to show you something. And he like, the guy walks over there and he's like, I can't fix this part, you see? And he like squirts some liquid in his eye, and then they get into a fight and all this stuff. And he's trying to get, Trip is trying to get the phaser so he can get the upper hand. And he, they get into a big fight, and it's like a, like a TOS type fight. And he gets the phaser and he ties the alien up, so the roles are reversed. So Trip gets a part from the alien guy's ship to power the transceiver. And it first, he turns it on and it zaps him, and the guy kind of laughs and he's like, oh yeah, you think that's funny, right? And then he tries it again. You hear something like it's working, and he's like, oh, this valley that we're in is surrounded by volcanic rock and all this stuff that's causing interference. We need to take it higher. And he's explaining this to the alien, and I guess the alien kind of understands. And that made me think of that episode of Deep Space Nine where Quark and Odo, same kind of situation. They're in a shuttle and they're on the way to somewhere, and Odo thinks that Quark is gonna go to jail or something. They're going to like some court or something, and what it is Quark is really like, I think he's testifying or something. uh, but they crash land and they land on this planet, and it's in the mountains, and they have to carry the transceiver up to the top of the mountain. And on the way, is it yeah, Odo gets injured because at this time the changelings have turned him into human because he killed another changeling, and the rule is, no changeling harms another changeling. But anyway, that reminded me of that episode. So Trip explains this to the guy, and he says, "Hey, look, he throws away the phaser, and he's like, "Hey, look, I'm not gonna hurt you. You don't hurt me. Let's just get this done." So he unties the guy, and the guy immediately jumps after him, and they get into another fight. And they're fighting and fighting, and maybe you should have held on to the phaser just in case. But whatever. So they get into a fight, and they fight, and they fight, and they're beating each other up, and Trip finally overcomes and wins the fight, gets the phaser back. I think at some point the alien gets the phaser, or almost gets it. So Trip throws it in the distance to where there's no way they could get to it, and he's basically like, you want to keep fighting, or you want to try to help me out and do this. So it's getting the sun is coming up, and it's getting closer to dawn. And then, so back on the ship, Hoshi, hears something, right? But is not sure if it's Trip. So then, back on the moon, they're carrying the receiver, the transceiver, up this little hillside or cliff, this little cliff thing, and they're stopped on the ledge of the cliff, and this guy, the alien, is really struggling, really bad struggling, and and it's getting hotter and hotter, and Trip is sweating too, and he's struggling. He takes a drink of water, and he pulls out the device that he recorded himself on, and basically does a personal log, and says that he's not sure, but it seems like this alien doesn't have sweat glands or can't sweat, and the alien is kind of suffering really bad. And so he's kind of nursing him while they're waiting he says it's been 2 hours since they sent out the signal or the message. And so finally Trip receives a message from Enterprise, and he tells Archer that the guy's injured, and Dr. Phlox is like, well, this guy's dehydrated, and if we use the transporter, it would risk killing him. And Trip was and Archer's we'll figure out a way we'll send the shuttle down or something like that. or we'll transport you up. Sorry, we'll transport you up, and we'll figure out what to do with this guy after you're transported up. And Trip was like, no, I'm staying with this guy. And Archer's like, well, after a while, we're gonna pull you out, because the temperature's rising and rising like rapidly. And at also, Trip tells Archer that he thinks if you do so and so to the aliens shuttle, because it won't work on the Enterprise's shuttle. He uses some kind of techno babble that it would stop the isotopes. That's what it was. That was causing problems for the shuttles, for both shuttles. Because the guy didn't shoot him down. He was shooting at him, but he didn't shoot him down. Because I had to think for a minute, like, how did this guy shuttle crash? And then when they said the isotopes thing, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I thought he would just shut him down, but so they can't transport him. But so they're sitting there and they're waiting and waiting, and this guy is getting worse off. And Trip talks about all the things that he's done while being out in space, and how he got pregnant once, and all this, how he saw a crater that was like 10 times bigger than Mount Everest or something like that. That's a big crater, by the way. Which isn't Olympus Mons on Mars like something like that? It's like really, really big mountain, like way bigger than Everest. So then they get rescued by the aliens, the other people, and they're back on the Enterprise. The captain that hailed Archer, that originally told them to leave, comes into Archer's like ready room, and Archer's like telling him, hey, your guy's gonna be fine. He just needs a little bit of rest, and the alien guy is like, well, I hope you'll honor the agreement that we made and leave our territory. And he's like, yes, I will. So he walks away. T'Pol's like, that situation was way lot better than the Vulcan situation. And again, that's why it should have been like the Tellarites or some other one. I can't think of another one that because you wouldn't want it to be like the Cardassians, not this early. And people complain about that episode of Enterprise where where what is it? Acquisition. Where they come on the ship, and my this is the loading signal. Even though I've seen this I've seen, if anybody's out there, they're probably like screaming at me, cork species. God damn it! Like I'm blanking because that's what happens sometimes, and that's just what I don't know. Guys, I've also been up since 6 in the morning. Had to work today. So, I'm winding down. The old man is sundowning. That's what they try to say about Trump. He's sundowning. Um, anyway, yeah, you wouldn't want it to be like the Kardashians or you know, uh, like a proto Borg or something like that. It have to be something more established in the original series. Ferengi, God, Jesus, good Lord, how could I not think of that? It's the loading screen. It finally loaded. Uh, so, you know, this episode is okay. I don't know how to rank it. I mean, you could say it's a 5. I don't know. There's a couple of funny moments. But I've seen this episode. I've seen this movie before. Literally, I've seen this movie before. And if anybody's out there or anybody listening to this in the future, and you grew up in the 80s or whatever, or just a big fan of sci-fi or what, it's called Enemy Mine. It's the same exact plot. The same fucking thing. And then there was an episode of TNG where where there's a Romulan and Geordi are stuck on some planet because they beamed down to do something. There's an away team, and then when they beam up, something goes wrong, and Geordi gets stuck on the planet with a Romulan. And then, of course, which is a much better episode than this because there's more humor in that one. Trip is a likable character. I mean, I think if you watched Enterprise and you are a fan of it, you probably think Trip is the most likable character. But still, it's like we're Enterprise and Voyager recycled a lot of Next Generation. And Deep Space Nine kind of did. I mean, Next Generation recycled, the original series early on. And maybe later on too, but, I mean, we're what Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager. So we're the fourth series in past the original series, and it's like, come on, we're really just gonna go, and that was the problem, and a lot of people by this point had enough and tuned out. I still maintain the third and fourth season of Enterprise is really good, especially the fourth, when they were leading up to the creation of the Federation. If they had started off with that, it started off with the Earth Romulan War. I know we just had a war with the Dominion, but and it's like the Xindi War arc, I hated. Now, there are some good, or the Temporal Cold War, which is even stupider. They had some good episodes in those Xindi arcs. There's one episode where they captured Dagra, and they pretend that Dagra is on a ship escaping like a prison with Archer, and but they're really just in like the shuttle bay or something, or in the cargo bay or something, and it's like a simulated ship, and that's a really good episode. Really good, really good. But overall, does anything now? I've as I grow older, I let go of some of the hate and the feelings that I had about those episodes back then. That's another part of the reason why I'm doing this show. But and I can watch them now and find something to appreciate. Like I said in the last episode, I, part of the reason why I'm doing this is because I can always find something that I appreciate in each episode of Star Trek, even if it's one that I don't like. Even if there's one that I just absolutely fucking hate. So that's part of the reason. The other part was to just be, I'm not like some of those other people out there that that can just name a season. They make fun of it in Saturday Night Live. When Shatner was on there. In season 3, episode 14 of the original series. You Captain Kirk, and they'll name the episode. And on SNL it was a joke, but for me it's like I kind of want to be that guy. It's kind of fucking interesting. Now I'm old, and you just saw that I couldn't even remember the name of the Ferengis, and it took me a minute, to come up with the Ferengis, even though I've watched Deep Space Nine all the way through quite a few times now. So I just thought, so that's part of the reason is like, no, I'm not going to be perfect on it. And there are going to be some episodes where I can pop one off, but not all of them, But yeah, that one, that TNG episode, which I forget the fucking name, So see, if a year from now, if I'm still doing this show, maybe I would be able to talk about that episode and be like, oh, it was episode something, so 4th season, or I think it's 3rd season, but and the name of the episode, but and then of course the one, Deep Space Nine one with Odo and Quark. That one's a superior episode to both the TNG episode and this Enterprise episode, because it's funny, it's humorous, and these are two people that we've known for a while now, as far as the series goes, and they've been adversaries since episode 1, Emissary. That's a name of a episode that I can name you. And for the longest time, Odo's been trying to bust Quark, and he thinks he's got him this time, and at the end of the episode, they're in the sick bay, and like Quark says something to him, and he kind of he's got his little grunts, and sometimes they're a laugh, sometimes they're, he's angry. It's just good character development. The only character development here is the alien at the end kind of appreciates what Trip did for him. But for Trip, it's like, he would have done, he wasn't trying to be antagonistic to the guy. Maybe a little bit, because he's like, hey, you're shooting at me, and you got me tied up, and you've got a gun to my face, but he still the whole point is Trip would have done this anyway, so there's no real character development for him. In Enemy Mine, these are two warring factors. Yeah. So the character development for both people is that they are enemies and they become friends through this shared experience. So that's the episode. I mean, it ends in sick bay, like I said, and they exchange some nice pleasantries. I don't think he ever actually thanked him, but he tells him that when he was like shooting at his ship, he's glad that he didn't kill him. So that's the best thing he can say. And Trip is like, the feeling's mutual, like, I'm glad you didn't do that either, buddy. Okay, so in the description, last episode I talked about Sbrina, this episode of Sbrina the Teenage Witch that I came across. But first of all, I'm going to check to see if anybody's in the chat. Let's check. Probably not. Hey, Darren M, there are people in the chat. DJ Play Nice is here. Darren M is here. That's about it. But that's great. It's great to see people. Let's see. Good evening, the Dead Man. Ferengi, yes, thank you. Yeah, Ferengi. DJ Play Nice, Darren M. I feel that way about Trek and Star Wars. Yeah, some of stuff sucks, but I'd rather that both franchises continue to produce series, shows, and films. Yeah, exactly. I'd rather. Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't another Voyager episode 2. Thank God. This one's not too much better, but I was getting really sick of Voyager. Yeah, I feel the same way, DJ Play Nice, because people complain about Discovery and Strange New Worlds, and I can tell you I hate them, but or no, I don't hate Strange New Worlds, but you got to keep the franchise going somehow. They got to get rid of Kurtzman. Good God. It's not essential to recall everything off the top of your head if you prepare for the programs, do research, and still can't remember a couple of things along the way. It's not a big deal. Yeah, I know it's not a big deal. And a lot of people will tell you, oh, this episode was written by so-and-so, and it was filmed, somewhere. I'm not really doing that right now. I'm just right now I'm trying to work on my public speaking and not just being like and I have a script that I'm reading off of, but I have to I have to write some shit down. I mean, I was talking to Admiral Teague the other day, and he said he writes shit down, but he also uses Chat GPT or something to get a good summary. So last week I was talking about this episode of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, where it was a Halloween episode, and wanted to introduce They introduced this Backstreet Boys song, and so I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a Rick Berman told this story about how I think it was Les Moonves wanted to introduce have on Enterprise have like a boy band of the week, and he he to his credit like shot it down. But I was watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and they introduced this concept, and I'm like, is that where this idea came from? Did it originate with Sabrina the Teenage Witch? And I guess it did, because I did more research on it, and there's Britney Spears shows up in the show, and Violent Femmes shows up in the show, and so I'm like, this is a strange rabbit hole, and the more I investigate it, the more I'm convinced that somebody in Paramount picked this up. And it does turn out that at some point Paramount owned, I guess, what was it, CW or whatever, UPN or whatever, Sabrina came on. So I'm just wondering, like, did somehow some producer somewhere see this idea from Sabrina and wanted to carry it over into Enterprise, because it's like the timing is almost perfect as to when this would have happened. And like I said, to his credit, Rick Berman shot it down. So anyway, I guess we're now at the point of the episode where I choose the next episode. So we have the random generator here, which I haven't changed. I haven't touched it. It's still there. Still Enterprise. So we're going to press randomize me and see what we get. Guess what, Darren M? It's another freaking Voyager episode. Voyager Season 2, Episode 6, Twisted. I don't remember this one. Let's look it up. To Twisted. The Voyager encounters a inversion field which twists and distorts the ship's hull. Cass is walking purposely through the ship. Walking purposely through the ship, and eventually enters Sbrina's on the holodeck. Uncharacteristically, lights are off and no one seems to be present. I don't remember this one. I'm sure that I've seen it, but I don't remember it. Anyway, I'm going to check the chat one more time and just see what's out there, but I thank DJ Play Nice, and I thank Darren M for showing up, and hopefully, at some point the something went wrong. Hopefully eventually the channel will grow, and We'll get more people in here, and we can talk about random episodes of Star Trek. But anyway, I thank everybody for coming out tonight, and I will be back on Wednesday, 8 p.m., same time, same bat channel. Hope to see you all there. Have a good night. Live long and prosper.